Hey, Queen, did you ever postpone dating because you had the fear that he will or that men will somehow end up being a bad person? The fear that he will end up hurting you, being a freak, and just being a nightmare. Okay, if that's been you, then this video is for you. I'm doing a series of, the different fears that, you have in terms of dating. Kind of like the fears that stop you from dating, the fears that stop you from getting it, go get it, right? The fear that stops you from putting yourself out there, that keeps you procrastinating. We're going to talk about all these things. So this one was like the third biggest fear that you guys said in the poll that you have, and that is that somehow he will end up being a bad person, like maybe they'll end up being a cheater or abusing you or treating you bad, right? So we talked about that fears usually come from past experiences or interactions you've seen in your family, with your parents, so on, right? So let me just tell you, when you end up in a relationship with someone, I call it when you end up in an inertia relationship, which means you kind of just ended up together, like naturally happened. It just kind of happened. Okay. These are the times that you will find some of those nightmare scenarios. Why? Because there was no intentionality. So I see a lot of women out there that take their dating lives like, they want to play. Listen, it's a cool girl syndrome there at the bottom. Because they want to play it cool. They want to be like, yeah, I'm a cool girl because, I'm not desperate to be with someone. I don't need to rush, like I'm focusing on work, my career, and life, and blah, blah, blah. So you play the cool girl, and one day you end up in a situationship with someone or in a relation, whatever, right? With someone. There was a lack of intentionality, a lack of planning, a lack of knowledge, a lack of everything intentional. So you didn't vet this man. You didn't bother to know human nature and how to make sure you didn't end up in an inertia relationship as opposed to getting together with someone who was crazy about you, where it was highly intentional on both ends. You didn't sit to think about what are the values that are so important to you, let alone look for that in someone else. So, what I'm trying to say is that when you vet someone very carefully, very intentionally, and watch very closely and carefully what you were looking for in a man, you'll be able to note all behaviors that would be a red flag, because a lot of times you hear, oh, I ended up with a narcissist. Well, that's because you didn't pay attention. You didn't vet this man. You didn't literally pay attention because you didn't even have an intention or knew what you were doing. So when you're winging it in life, especially in dating, and see, it's crazy to hear that women don't prioritize dating and their life partner or life mate It's crazy because it's like one of the biggest decisions of your life, because they can wreck your life, they can change your life for the better. And if you stay alone, it also is a completely different course in your life, like 1000%. So how is this not a priority? How is this not so important? Completely important. If not one of the most important things in your life. Because also being single forever, there's a lot you need to account for. You're gonna need a lot more money. You're gonna. So when you vetted this man correctly up front, when you behaved in such a way that this man had the best impression of you, and when you're only dating men that are insanely crazy about you and that passed all the requirements, how will it end up bad? If you carefully chose that this man is not broke, if you carefully made sure that this man is not unhealed and damaged, if you carefully made sure that this is not a mentally unstable person all up front, because once you start fucking someone, you won't be able to see it. You won't be able to see clear. You won't be able to think straight. All the red flags will go out the window. So it's kind of an irrational fear. And of course, like, there's the odd situation where he was a phenomenal person and then out of the blue, he's a monster. I'm sure there's been those scenarios, but it's highly unlikely, highly illogical that that would be the case. And really and truly, in all my experience, with my, dating and relationship clients, all the years, my own dating experience, my own marriage, and there's no surprises. There's none. You know what there is? There is the fact that you didn't pay attention, the fact that you were fucking this guy and pair bonded and all the hormones didn't allow to see the red flags. So here's the big takeaway here. Do not fuck someone ever or pair bond, spend too much time, give exclusivity with someone you haven't very well vetted, filtered out, or very intentionally done the whole process. This is the takeaway. Don't let it, happen naturally, because without intention, because then you don't know what you're doing. You didn't vet them. You didn't think anything. You didn't plan anything. You didn't scrutinize anything. You didn't do nothing. So then don't be shocked that he turned out to be a monster. There's no surprises when you are intentional, when you're very careful and methodical and all of that. And no, it doesn't kill the romance. No, it only makes it better. Why? Because you're not dating some lunatic or some broke or some damaged. So there's no surprises, man. There's girls, queens. The truth is, there's no surprises. Each time that I've gone together with a client and looked at their past history when they suffered, the red flags were there. It was always there in front of you. Why? Because life is not fucked up where everything's a shock and a surprise. No. Life shows you the keys, life shows you all the signs and so on and so forth. So I want you to be intentional. I want you to stop this thing of like, it'll happen naturally. I don't have to think about it, prioritize it. I don't, it'll happen when it happens. Maybe. But if you weren't really methodical and intentional and careful with who you are with, then don't be shocked. If you're intentional and careful, there will be no surprises. There will, like, it's so, like, far-fetched. I've never seen a case of surprises where he was completely perfect, completely vetted, filtered, perfect, and he turned out to be broke and a drug addict and asshole narcissist. Like, no, like you can vet men, and you should be vetting men before you ever really go all in. Yeah? So let me know in the comments, ladies, if this fear of men ending up being bad should really stay. Okay, let me know. Let me know what you think. So I'll see you in the next. Bye now.